Hey everyone, Rho here. Before I begin today, a big thank you to Manraj for the virtual gift voucher. Apologies if I didn't pronounce your name correctly there, my friend, but a huge thank you for the support. It is truly appreciated. Thank you. But with that said, on to today. Today we discuss the Warden of the Imperium Nihilus, Dante, as we ask if Guilliman's appointment was influenced by his unremembered empire. General spoiler warning to begin, as the events we are discussing today are from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. So Dante, legendary chapter master of the Blood Angels, the man who has led his chapter for over 1,000 years, and whose name is held in reverence by every other chapter master out there. Maybe one day someone will match his accomplishments. Maybe one day another name will inspire such respect. But today is not that day, and so it is Dante alone who stands a breed apart. Now, despite Dante's greatness, or perhaps more likely because of it, the Blood Angels have survived a truly testing time of late, with the full might of High Fleet Leviathan invading their homeworld. These events of course known as the devastation of Baal. Whilst the sons of Sanguinius united together in defence of their Primarch's home, it was a very thin line between defeat and victory. And though the sons of Sanguinius came out the victors, devastation was undoubtedly the appropriate word. The Blood Angels chapter and most of its successors were devastated beyond number. And well, this tale is well told, as it was in the final moments of the battle that the reborn Rabute Guilliman arrived to his brother's ancient home, his fleet eradicating what was left of the Tyrannid forces. And in the days that followed, he named Dante as Warden of the Imperium Nihilus, the Blood Angels chapter master now responsible for the defence of fully half of the Imperium. Now, for a long time, I've never questioned this decision. If Guilliman felt some form of overall commander was needed, then who are we to question it? Again, Dante's reputation is renowned. If anyone was to be placed as Warden of the Imperium Nihilus, well then who better than Dante? However, there was one particular line in my recent reading of the Wolf Time novel that just made me look at this decision again, which was incredibly surprising for a number of reasons. Now, this isn't a major spoiler in regards to the events of the novel, so fear not if you haven't read it. We're just going to be referencing a theme of a particular conversation between Guilliman and the custodian tribune Colquhoun. And side note, I've had a lot of people asking for us to discuss the Wolf Time novel, and don't worry guys, you will hear my thoughts, we will do that. As always, I just like to leave it a little while to give people time to read it for themselves first, because as I always say, that's the best way to enjoy the lore. Anyway, I digress. In regards to this discussion, Colquhoun as a custodes, and one with a particular distrustful nature, is debating the state of affairs within the Imperium with Guilliman. And he makes a reference essentially saying that the Imperium Nihilus is a lost cause, that he doesn't understand why Guilliman would even want to go there, that he should be focusing on the southern half only. And again, this was a bit of a surprise considering the book is focused solely on the southern half of the Imperium and the Space Wolves. But Guilliman, as you might expect, feels different to the custodian, implying that he'd seen worse during the days of the Great Crusade, and that now, just as then, people will be finding a way to survive, to hold on against the darkness. and he names Dante as one particular example of that defiance. And as we know, Guilliman is not wrong. But here's the key part of our discussion, as Colquhoun retorts with a bit of a verbal jab at the Primarch, commenting how Guilliman shouldn't confuse Dante with Sanguinius, and then even following up with a reference to how Guilliman can't set up another kingdom beyond the storm. And this is quite clearly referencing Guilliman's past with his Imperium Secundus. And well, that was a big surprise. For those of you that get confused with timelines, the Dawn of Fire series is telling the history of the Indomitus Crusade. It's set before the events of the Dark Imperium series, and at present, it is also before Guilliman has crossed the rift. And well, this conversation immediately brings up a ton of questions into my mind. Now, aside from the main topic of conversation, it does make me wonder just how widespread the knowledge of the Imperium Secundus is, considering it was a proclamation of an empire, and one that contained 3 entire legions. Well, you'd expect word to travel somewhat, but perhaps more appropriately, knowledge of it clearly reached the throne world. So it still gives me some small glimmer of hope of a final heart-to-heart conversation between the Emperor and Sanguinius in those final moments before they depart to board the Vengeful Spirit, something that becomes recorded in the Custodes archives, maybe even by Valdor himself, asking for a forgiveness that the Emperor tells his son is in no way needed. The closer we get to the end of the heresy, the more I feel like it's just not going to happen. I don't know why, it's just the feeling that I have, but I really still hope it does. And this comment by Colquhoun just gives me a little bit more hope, because well, the Custodes have to learn of it from somewhere. So why not from the lips of Sanguinius himself? Another alternative is of course Guilliman himself, maybe informing Terra in the aftermath of the siege. It's something I've been contemplating for quite a while, so we'll discuss that possibility another day. Just how truthful was Guilliman before being appointed Lord Commander? Regardless, however, of how the Custodes learned of it, the fact is they did. And what strikes me as really interesting is, despite this comment of an empire beyond the storm coming up in a rather unimportant conversation, we know that Guilliman does go on to appoint Dante as the Warden of Imperium Nihilus, which, while a decision I never once remotely looked at with any skepticism, with this comment, it does now make me wonder just a little, whether rightly or wrongly, how much has Guilliman been influenced by his past? Is this yet another attempt at building the Imperium anew? Guilliman correcting his past mistakes or repeating them once again? Yes, Dante is Warden, a far stretch from being named Emperor, but it is still an extremely powerful position. As I've said before, it in essence could be said Dante is now the second most powerful man in the Imperium entire, behind only Guilliman himself. At least in a figurative sense. We know the Imperium Nihilus is in truth nothing but an entire war zone. And we also know that Baal is being built to become a symbolic terror of the North. While it could never compete with the throne world itself, it is in essence becoming a capital system, the symbolic light amidst the darkness. By Guilliman's own instructions, the cities of Baal are being reborn to be bastions of science and education. Spaceports large enough to hold Battlefleet Nihilus are being built within its system, and people already are flocking to its location. Guilliman is building the homeworld of the Blood Angels to be everything that Terra used to be, everything that it was during the time of the Golden Age of the Great Crusade. Dante may not be sanguineous, Baal may not be Ultramar, but if you really wanted to look at it that way, this could well be the beginnings of an empire beyond the storm. Now the counterpoint to that is, well, that's exactly what the Imperium Nihilus needs. It may still be called the Imperium in name, but in truth it's simply a collection of worlds that are just left to fend for themselves. With the Cicatrix Maledictum blocking the Emperor's light, warp travel is all but impossible. Anyone that tries it is truly risking their lives. Guilliman is an empire builder. That's what he was created to do. The Emperor and Malcador were fully aware of what Guilliman's intentions were when the Lion headed to Macragge so long ago. It's why he was the best Primarch to return first. It's undoubtable some of his brothers are better warmongers and warriors, but that was not the talent that was required. And so is there any real surprise that he does the same thing now within his own realm of Ultramar, and quite possibly Baal across the Rift? I mean, it's really the best way of securing the Imperium, as long as he doesn't go declaring new emperors or declaring Imperium Secunduses. Is there really a problem? In my eyes, well, really, there's not one. In the actions themselves, at least. Sure, the Ultramar expansion is a little controversial, but for Baal, making a bastion of defense is surely the best and most logical move. A solid foundation to which further actions can be made. If a crusade is ever to be led across the Rift, you need a base from which to launch it, and the Blood Angels' homeworld provides exactly that. So with that said, the problem for me is not Guilliman's actions themselves, but in how they can be viewed. Colquhoun's comments certainly throw that shade of doubt when we consider Dante's future appointment. No, Dante is not his Primarch, but he does wear his face. He represents Sanguinius. It's interesting to think how Dante himself would feel if accusations of his Primarch's past were soon to be thrown his way. It's kind of ironic, really, that the appointment of Dante and the evolution of Baal really represent the best hope for the future of the Imperium. That small glimmer of hope that from the ashes and carnage of chaos, the Imperium as it was supposed to be could just be rebirthed. But in that same action, the fate of Guilliman could possibly be sealed. Is Guilliman building empires to save the Imperium? Or is Guilliman building empires to build his own? I guess, as always, perception is in the eye of the beholder. But as always, guys, what do you think? Could Guilliman's appointment of Dante as Warden of the Imperium Nihilus, of his rebuilding of the Blood Angels' homeworld, really be viewed as an empire beyond the storm? And with that in mind, given his past with Sanguinius and the Imperium Secundus, should Guilliman maybe have chosen someone else to be the Warden of the Imperium Nihilus? As much as Dante was the best choice, it's hard to argue that there weren't alternatives. As always, guys, leave your thoughts in the comments below. I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers. Your support truly means a lot to me. It really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.